So I think our first mini topic here is our brand, guys. Our brand.
Which is fairly new, like all of the branding stuff. Like
Yes.
I guess the logo isn't new.
Our podcast started with it, so
Right.
it was always as new as the podcast is. So the logo's always been there, but this came for me and you, Chris, at the same time as a bunch of other creative endeavors we do that didn't have fancy logos yet.
Right. Yeah, so I do I write books and stuff like that. And then we have a Let's Play channel on YouTube where I play video games.
And I design board games, Chris, don't forget me.
Right, but you didn't have like a official thing for that yet, right?
No, I didn't have a thing for that, but we got the logo at the same time.
Right, yeah. And then Nerd Chomp didn't exist before, which is where this podcast is posted.
Yeah, so we didn't draw it ourselves. We actually outsourced our logo design to, who was it? We can plug them.
Her name is Angela Cuellar. Her last name is spelled Cuellar. Cuellar?
Cuellar. That's a Ferris Bueller joke.
It was subtle.
Thanks for explaining. But yeah, she was a really good artist. I really like the results that she like the final results.
Yeah, I do love our logo. I think it's a very good logo.
Because we tried to make our own, like I remember we tried to make our own, and they didn't come out that well.
Oh yeah, I think I definitely remember at least sketching logos out without the direct intent to just send them to a real artist to do.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, logo design, I was like, is one of those things where I was like, psh, I could do that, and I have nowhere near the skill set for it.
I remember we kept on looking at samples of other podcasts to see like what kind of see what style we wanted, and Ben and I were on the same page. You were not on the same page.
Yeah.
Because I think both of us, Ben and I, we liked the t-shirt style sort of thing, like simplistic artwork. But you said you liked the more complex stuff.
Yeah, I forget what we had before.
I don't remember what the early ones were.
I think our original design was like a thought bubble with a question mark in it.
Yeah, there was definitely a thought. I don't remember how it worked. That sounds right.
It's like a thought bubble with a question with I think either with our podcast name in it, probably Absurd Hypotheticals.
It was. Hold on, I'll send you guys something, which isn't helpful for the listeners, but
we can describe it better at least. Oh yeah, so it was like silhouettes of the three of us.
Which I don't think we actually made this one. I think a different artist made this.
Yeah, I think so.
I drew a concept. I did a little art for this one. I made a little art somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think I sketched something out to this, and then we
had them follow it,
and they arted it. Yeah. And this is just 3 silhouettes of us, all with thought bubbles coming up, and then they form a cloud at the top half of the logo that says Absurd Hypotheticals in it.
Right.
It looks very 70s or 80s.
I can't really pin down a time period, but it's sort of less of a logo and more of just like a cover. Like we can double our cover right now as a logo.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, this would just be like an album cover. It looks almost. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, it's very album cover.
But then, I remember talking about the question mark and not really being on board with just having a question mark. I remember not liking it until it became a little cartoon guy.
Yeah. And you said you showed it to a bunch of people and they didn't even realize it was a question mark, right? So maybe the listeners didn't even realize until just now.
Didn't we update it? I think it had different proportions originally when people didn't recognize it.
Maybe. Yeah, we might have made the bottom longer. I
think we made the bottom longer and made it just like a little more pronounced somehow.
Yeah.
We went through a bunch of iterations once we had our main idea. This is like a year ago now, year plus.
Yeah, it was a year ago.
So from there we got the logo, and then we got similar logos for your books, for my board game stuff, and for our YouTube channel, and then the main logo for our Nerd Chomp banner that we put everything underneath it.
I remember because I came up with the Nerd Chomp name, and I remember I didn't tell you, like I didn't brainstorm with you because I felt like you wouldn't like the name Nerd Chomp, but I liked it. But then you said later on that you did like it and that you would have said yes to it.
Yeah, I probably would have. I can never know for sure because it's so much of like how it feels in creativity is also just like how I'm feeling that day too. Like it's not objectively good or bad, the like logos in general. So it's just however you feel about it.
I mean, I guess we kind of went through the same thing, brainstorming names for the podcast, Absurd Hypotheticals. Like, we went through a lot of stuff.
Oh my god. And not that we settled on Absurd Hypotheticals, but god, do I love pun names, and we're not a pun.
Right. Well, I think we picked Absurd Hypotheticals because we decided that it's better to be descriptive so that people actually know what the show is.
Yeah, and we kind of did it we did it very engineering-like, not very creative person-like, where we had, like, puns and things, and then we're like, we should probably put the word hypothetical in the show name.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, either what if or hypothetical in the show name is what we wanted to do.
Your original name for the podcast was Hypotheticals, but that was already taken.
Oh, right. Yep.
Hypotheticals is a good name, but it was already taken.
We tried a lot of ways to get like some sort of play on words like that without success.
And then I remember we just had like our final. I mean, we had already been brainstorming for like a while, so
There's a whole Google chat of just like a whole list of names,
and it was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put hypothetical either the first or second word, and we're just gonna put words around it until we find one that we like. And we ended up liking Absurd Hypotheticals. Absurd seems to be the correct word for a particular weird. The particular weirdness that we have feels absurd, I guess, is how I would phrase it. Like crazy isn't quite right. Yeah, wild, dumb, stupid.
Yeah,
like all those aren't.
Dumb can sometimes apply. we're not devoid of dumb.
Yeah, but dumb would give the wrong impression that we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
So we ended up at absurd, and it's kind of funny now. It's like half a bummer because when we first released our show and finally was out there, like a week later, we're like, Googled our name to see how, if we pop up at all if you Google us, and it turned out Absurd Hypotheticals is a tagline on XKCD's What If book, which is basically our podcast in book form.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's a big inspiration. I'm surprised we didn't catch that earlier on.
I think it's also only part of the tagline, right?
Yeah, we may have seen it, but it was like the subtext of the thing. So the book is called What If.
Right. It's the subtitle.
The subtitle is Serious Scientific Answers to Absurd Hypothetical Questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you search Absurd Hypothetical without the S, then the book comes up. If you put the S on it, then we come up.
Right. And it's funny, too, because now he's coming out with another book later this year. He's actually doing a book tour coming up for How To, where it's a book about solving mundane problems in over-the-top ways.
Which is also something we do.
Yeah, which is exactly also something we do. Our sense of humor lines up really exactly with Randall Munroe, XKCD, What If, and his how-to book and all the things he does, which I think is not a bad thing. I love his work. And now what's kind of annoying or makes me feel not great is that his how-to book tagline also uses the absurd phrase. The tagline of this book is also something absurd something.
Yeah, so absurd is like his brand now.
So now he's branding around the word absurd. And it's like...
He doesn't use hypothetical though, right?
No, I don't think so. Let me find the tagline. Absurd scientific advice for common real world problems.
Okay.
In any case, it's a good word.
Yeah, I'm happy with the final title and logo that we ended up on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think it took me maybe a week for it to grow on me, but now I really like our brand for our podcast.
I think at first it was hard for me to say absurd hypotheticals, like just normally. Like it didn't feel natural saying it.
I would definitely agree with that. But now I've kind of gotten used to it for some reason.
Yeah, absurd hypotheticals.
Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals.
The show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host, Marcus Lander, and I'm joined here today by Chris E. and Ben Storms.
Say hey, hi guys. Hey, I'm Chris.
Oh,
hey, I'm Ben.